Welcome to the Canned Wine Podcast, where we open cans of wine and talk about it. This season, we're giving you the world in a can, and before we can give you the world in a can, we have to give you the Wine Nerd Word of the Week. Today's Wine Nerd Word of the Week is decant, and this is where you gradually pour the liquid from one container to another, and around here that would be wine, to avoid disturbing the settlement, and it also allows the wine to aerate. And some cans, depending on how they're made, will have a bit of sediment in it. So we always like to pour it into a bottle or into a glass. It allows us to look at it, which we do for you people, but it also allows us to not have that sediment in some of the naturally fermented wines. And that brings us to our intrepid wine opening partner and world explorer. Kenny, are you there?
I sure am.
Where do we find you this week?
I'm in northern Manitoba in a little community called Paw, way up in the boreal forest, just in nothing but trees and lakes all around me.
Did you see any wildlife on your trip up there today?
I've seen a moose and a big coyote.
Well, that's more than I would see in New York City. Although we do have coyotes around here. We do have some bobcats too. A friend of mine saw a bobcat going along the river with her kits, I guess you call them. But we have coyotes. They're usually in pretty rough shape, and we do have raccoons here, but I have yet to see a moose. So you got me there. Kenny, can you introduce our can of the week?
Yeah, certainly. It's a Lola from Pelly Island, and it's Pinot Grigio, 250 ml with 12.5% alcohol.
Thank you very much. And this comes in what I call a screw top can. It's an aluminum can with a top on it that's like a screw on a beverage thing. So you could reseal it, although with 250 mLs, as my buddy Kenny would say, what's the point? It makes a nice package. These can be a little bit harder to open if you have, arthritic hands or something, but it's a very nice package. You'll see it because we do video now. It's a pale green with pictures of flowers, and it's very nicely done. Now, Point Pelee Island is in fact the southernmost point of Ontario, Canada, and the most southern point of Canada. It's on the same latitude as Northern California, which is where they have the International Canned Wine Competition in Mendocino County, which is not much further south than Point Pelee. The Point Pelee Winery utilizes the unique microclimate at Canada's warmest spot per se, and it's a great grape growing region. The point sticks out into Lake Erie, which moderates the temperature because it's pretty central and pretty continental. And this is why, for over 150 years, it has been one of Canada's greatest wine growing region. And this winery has embraced environmental sustainability. This can is also vegan friendly, and they limit their pesticide and use only natural fertilizers. So they're very into those sorts of things. Now, they started winemaking back there, I think, in the 1850s or in around that time. But they've recently bought this place and brought it back into production. I think they're running 700 acres of wine there. So it's a good looking place and a really unique kind of environment that allows them to grow this type of wine. The wine itself is a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Grigio varieties that they grow right there. And this was purchased in Manitoba from the MLCC, which is the government Manitoba Liquor Control Commission. So I purchased it when I was there on a trip. Kenny had a can of it, and I have a can of it, and now we're at the point where we'd like to open it. Before I do that, though, Kenny, You were traveling through the lake last week only, or last year, weren't you? Past Point Pelee?
Yeah, my wife and I went on a Great Lakes tour, which started off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then ended up going north to Toronto, Canada. So going through the Great Lakes, so we passed through the Pelee Point. We actually got off the main cruise ship. Checked out all the thousands of waterfall on that area. It's a real birder's paradise. In addition to a wine paradise, from what you say, it's also a birder's paradise. All kinds of birds. So it was really, really cool to see that, and to see that actually spelled out on this wine.
Yeah, exactly. And it is not only a birder's paradise because it's a migratory focus for them. They also have migratory butterflies and things like that pass through there. So it's a real unique habitat and a great place to grow wine. Now, as we do on the Canned Wine Podcast, let's get ready to open this. We're having a simultaneous opening. You at the subarctic and me at the East Coast, right by New York City. So give me 1 second. And I'm ready to go. You want to count us in there, Kenny?
3, 2, 1, pour.
Well, that was a very nice pour. This has almost an amber color in my light. What does yours look like, Kenny? Are you pouring it into a cup? Or?
Yeah, into a glass. Yeah, looks there. Yeah, like you say, it does.
It does have some legs in it. At 12.5, I would expect. They try and keep their sugar relatively low, although I didn't have the figures on this. They say you might smell apple, lime, lemon, honeysuckle.
Yeah, I do smell apple. My nose, I don't smell well. Those smells, I'll leave them up to you, somebody who knows what they're smelling, but I do smell apple as well.
Yeah, I smell that kind of white fruits. And the taste is, it's not sweet. There's definitely a bit of citrus to that. And I like this wine as we have tried them before, and they make a very good quality wine. And, considering that it's made sustainably with very low pesticide interventions and these sorts of things, they do a good job. Because wine and fruit crops, as we both know, they require a lot of intervention to keep various diseases and insects away. So they're doing a good job there. Now, as we're kind of wrapping it up here, I'd like to give a shout out to our friends from not far away from there, Niagara-on-the-Lake. They came down to visit us in Toronto, and in fact, they were drinking some Pinot Grigio last night. I don't think it was Lola, but it was certainly a good wine. And hope you're having a great trip, and it was good to see you guys. Now, all of our friends on Spotify, if you want to just put in quotation marks, the Canned Wine Podcast, in YouTube, you can see everything that we're doing here. So we encourage you to join us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Our head scratcher for this week, last week's answer was 1772, when wine growing started in Marlborough, New York. Now this week, our question is, when were grapes first planted on Point Pelee? Come back here next week for the answer. In closing, thank you for tuning into the Canned Wine Podcast, where we open cans of wine and talk about it. Again, a big thanks to you, Kenny, for joining us. I know it's not hard to open a can of wine and enjoy it, but we appreciate you coming on the podcast, and as always in exotic locations, the subarctic this time, and enjoying a can of wine, which is nice because it travels well. You throw it in a sock in your suitcase, and there you have a real nice wine. And the serving size is great too. If you just want to have 1 or 2 glasses of wine, you're there. And in fact, with this screw top, you could close it if you had to put it back into the fridge. So remember to enjoy responsibly, and just because it comes in a can doesn't mean you can drink and drive. The Canned Wine Podcast is a Center Stage production. All rights reserved. Cheers, Kenny.